Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. $100 million. You can keep it, sucker. That was the tone of Deontay Wilder and his team a few years ago when it came to these negotiations with Anthony Joshua for the undisputed distinction. Supposed to be one face, one name in the heavyweight division. That was what Deontay Wilder was screaming, right alongside a bomb squad. And let me tell you something. When you look at what's going on over there in Saudi Arabia right now, and how they're putting together this undisputed distinction, Fury and Usyk. Let me tell you something. Just listen to that bullshit. Fury and Usyk. That shit don't have a nice ring to it. It sounds horrible to me. Fury versus Usyk. That shit don't get nobody, it doesn't get anybody excited. Fury versus Usyk. Now how about this? Wilder versus Joshua. That shit get your blood going. That shit get you bubbling up. But unfortunately, we will never get the opportunity to see an undefeated Wilder fight an undefeated AJ for the undisputed distinction. Because something went wrong with negotiations. Now, I know the UK fans and some guys in the States you feel like Deontay Wilder was stupid. He walked away from $100 million. They're like, how dumb can you be? Especially when you look at his current situation. My boy dropped the ball. $100 million back then, and then to come now with this ayahuasca and Malik Scott and this poor performance, gotten there made, I think, like $14 million or something, and was looking at a $50 million payday. So my man was about to, this year, and within a 6-month period, this man could have made like $64 million, and he dropped the ball. So when you look at that, it's like, okay, he had the $100 million back then, 60-something million here, plus whatever the rest of this year, this man blew that like a $200 million something dollars. Deontay Wilder has just blown. Opportunity gone. And may never get the opportunity again because he's got to build himself back up. Although there's a demand to see him in Saudi Arabia, he's got to get back to work. It sounds like the Saudis want to give him money. They want him to fight. But they want him to fight who they want him to fight. But he's got to win. But one thing I'll say is this, right? We all know went wrong, but some people want to blame finger point. They want to blame this one. Fingers doing all this is what you got going on. Fingers just pointing all over the goddamn place. Like you're doing wicked sorcery and shit. But this isn't voodoo. What this is, I personally think, right, because I know what happened. Just like a lot of y'all have an idea, some people just want to get bits and pieces. Let me tell you something, right? At the end of the day, Wilder wasn't treated as a champion. Negotiations were mishandled by the DAZN reps. They came out and said that. Now, I also believe Wilder felt he was bigger than what he was, and Shirley Finkel was stupid. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to say he was stupid. I just think he looked at Deontay Wilder, what Deontay Wilder was doing, and figured, hey, if they're going to give you this, whatever, man, $20 million for Brazil or whatever the money was for Brazil, $40 million for AJ in the first fight and $40 million in the second fight, right? If they're going to give you that, you shouldn't worry about what AJ's going to make. Because that was something that was Wilder's concern. Why aren't they talking about what AJ's going to make? And I think that's a valid concern. But when you're not making nowhere near $10 million and you get an opportunity here, guaranteed 3 fights, you got to come on over to our side. 3 fights, $100 million. And you're on your own. I think when you look at it now, you got to be comfortable with your decision. I kind of think when you sit back and look at how things played out now, I think Shelly Finkel should have been like, look, don't worry about what they're making. You're about to get $100 million. If they're going to make $500 million, doesn't matter. I think he should have been like, it's just for 3 fights. Win your fights. And then now, we can look to put you in that position. Because at that time, we got to be real. You know, Anthony Joshua was the man. As far as, you know, he was the money guy. He still is. Wilder wasn't, right? And that was the reality of it. But they recognized that, and I just think they could have treated him a little fairer. And I don't know what all happened. I just know for that guy from the zone to come out and say they dropped the ball, they didn't treat Wilder as a champion. That's what they said. So that tells me that when it comes to, that makes me feel when it comes to the money, they were being greedy over with Matchroom and DAZN, and they just felt Deontay Wilder was this dumb country bumpkin that they could manipulate. And Shelly Finkel, I think he had the best intentions towards Wilder, but I think he missed an opportunity because $100 million is $100 million. But when you look at what the hell the Saudis are doing right now, if Wilder was going to get 40, see, this is what y'all need to understand. Where do y'all think that money was coming from? At that time, this is the Kinahan connection. People, I ain't making this up. Kinahan was putting that money up. How's he putting it up? He's going to have to fight in Saudi. He has connections in Saudi, all right? This isn't something that we're making up here. That's why when I talk about boxing and talk about Saudi, I make sure to remind you all that at the end of the day, Kinahan, man, you know, he was out there influencing a lot of things, and he was the guy, right? He was that guy who was bridging the gap. He was making things happen. But we come to where we are now. I think Deontay Wilder should have took that money. I just don't care, man. I think he should. And I do think there was more money on the table back then. And if he just would have gotten one of those fights, who knows how much more money he could have made. And the reason why Eddie Hearn, this is the thing about Eddie Hearn and those contracts. Eddie Hearn will say, look, and that's how he approaches things. He did Andy Ruiz that way. Hey, Wilder, you have one belt. We have the rest of the belts. We want to make this fight for undisputed. But, you know, Floyd Mayweather, I'm the A side. AJ's the A side. We're going to give you a guaranteed $40 million for the first fight and then a guaranteed $40 million for the second fight. The problem with that is it didn't matter if Wilder won or lost. He goes into the second fight, he gets only $40 million. Where AJ, whatever he made in the first fight, let's say it was $100 million. In the second fight, he still makes more money than Wilder, and that's the point of contention, I do believe. But at the end of the day, if you want to fight the A side guy, it's just shrewd business. You gotta kind of accept their demands and what they're willing to give you. Now, if you would have gotten in the ring and beat Joshua twice, which during that time period, I think he could have. But Joshua could have beat him too. But I think Wilder could have beat him because Joshua was letting his hands go a lot more. And I think it would have given some opportunities for Wilder, who back then was letting his hands go a lot more. And Wilder may have got that right hand off on him. Because what we do know, although Anthony Joshua is looking pretty good now against Wilder and Ben Davison, and he got his confidence back, and Joshua was talking about how he breaks eye sockets and breaks faces, and he's a powerful guy. I still think his chin is his chin. And I think if he would have landed on Wilder, I think he would have knocked Wilder out. I do. But I think if he would have thrown something and not hit the mark, and Wilder hit him with that damn Alabama slammer hammer, oh yeah, Joshua would have got tranquilized. Simple. So coming back full circle, this whole thing about $100 million and looking at the situation Deontay Wilder's in right now, I'm trying to put myself in that situation, right? I don't know what Deontay Wilder's experiences were at the time. I don't know if he was thinking about what he came into the sport of boxing to do, was basically to become a champion and take care of his daughter. But if we just frame the conversation around, I came in here to take care of my daughter, I promised her I'd be a world champion. And that's it. If he went into negotiations with just those two things on his mind, you know what, man, fuck Shelly Finkel. fuck everybody. This is what I'm going in here with on my brain. These people about to give me $100 million. I think Deontay Wilder would have signed that deal. I think he would have. But at the end of the day, he thought that him and Tyson Fury could kind of, blackball and block out Anthony Joshua, and they would go on and do a couple fights and make a bunch of money. And the sad thing is, they did make a bunch of money, but it still didn't make that AJ money. So it just makes you wonder, what he was thinking when he was like, nobody needs AJ. Who's he fighting now? He has nobody to fight. AJ was still out there making more money than them. So it's crazy to me, but excuse me, long story short, let's see what Wilder does now going forward, because $40 million is not on the table anymore. It may take him a couple fights to win, if he chooses to keep boxing, to get back to where the Saudis want to give him a $40 million payday. $40 million is a lot of damn money. And Turkey Al-Sheikh seems to understand, if fighters are winning, if fighters are entertaining, we pay them. But if you're not winning, we're going to pay you, but it's not going to be what you're accustomed to getting. Excuse me. And when it comes to Deontay Wilder and what's his name, Zhang, that's one of the main reasons why that fight didn't materialize. Is one, Wilder didn't want to take a very risky fight for the money they were going to give him. Wilder got used to getting paid. He got used to getting paid decent money, and I think they were only trying to give him a couple million. So that just lets you know his stock plummeted. That being said, $100 million, keep it, suckers. But I truly believe Deontay Wilder, if he gets that opportunity again for that kind of payday, those kind of guarantees, for a 3-fight deal, doesn't matter against who it is, I think he takes it. Especially he's at the end of his career. $100 million is $100 million, people. Did Deontay Wilder make $100 million in his career? I don't know. But he could have that and much more. But there were some missteps along the way. But I do believe he's comfortable with it, because he did what he felt was right for him. And I'm gonna tell you, when I first retired in 2018, I talked about this in another video. I had an opportunity to go and work in Atlanta. They were going to be paying me like $250,000 a year. But the position, it would have required me to have a pager, a cell phone. All this would have been given to me. It was something dealing with working with local leadership, and something about Airbnbs. I would have to live inside one of the properties, and I would have to basically be on call 24/7. I would have to go to all these engagements and start to rub shoulders with leadership in the city, and different stakeholders and people who are, could affect B&B business, right? And when they were telling me about this, because they reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I said, okay, everything sounds good. I was like, but this thing about a pager and me having a cell phone, I said, I got a family. I was like, they're like, don't worry about it. We'll make sure that you have a place to stay, and this and that, and great schools. And they would tell me everything I needed to hear. I said, but how much time will I have for my kids? They're like, I'm gonna be honest with you. You're gonna be pretty busy. You're gonna have to be available whenever you get contacted. And there was a bit more to the position, right? I would have had to travel, and I turned it down, because you gotta understand, I'm a retired cat. after being in the military for 25 years, you know, out of those 25 years, I got a rip when I retired. This showed that I was on the road. Like, out of those 25 years, like 4.5 of those years, I was on the road, traveling. That's a lot of damn traveling. So I wasn't gonna let nobody take a pound of flesh out of me for no money, you know what I'm saying? Even though I would have been retired, life is good, did this extra money on top, make life a little bit better. But it wasn't worth it, because I wouldn't have had a peace of mind. I wouldn't have been happy, you know? And I think with Deontay Wilder, kind of similar situation. Like, you know, the money sounds good, but this ain't really the direction I want to go. So I can understand. But if they would have offered me $40 million, I'd have been like, kids, daddy, see ya, bye. Y'all keep cool, I'm in the breeze.